I'm Scott Munn, along with Tug Coward in the Warrior Alliance Network studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Are you a veteran looking for employment or career advancement? Well, the TK Elevator Company is Warrior committed. TK Elevator has recently started the TKE Connect Veterans Group, and they're actively looking to hire veterans like you. So today, Tug and I will introduce you to Nate Holliday of TKE. The son of two veterans who served in the U.S. Army National Guard for 11 years, Nate Holliday is a dynamic leader who values service and purpose, and those have shaped his unwavering passion for people. Drawing from his military experience where team safety was paramount, he launched his civilian career in workplace health and safety. Nate now serves as Vice President of Human Resources at TK Elevator, managing the employee success strategy for a $3 billion operation with over 10,000 employees across field services, manufacturing, and corporate functions. So let's press the up button on veteran opportunities at TK Elevator with Nate Holliday. Welcome to the Warrior Alliance Network.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I love the elevator pun there.
Yeah, I thought you might like that little corny joke, right?
Yeah.
I thought I'd lift things a little.
Yeah. I love it.
We need rim shots.
Yeah, exactly.
For this episode.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've had so many jokes laid out at one time.
Yeah,
it's a good day.
Every once in a while, someone tells me one that I haven't heard. So it's always funny when someone can get one over me before me getting one over them.
All right.
But it's always a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the classic one is, how's the elevator business? It's up and down. Right?
That's right. Exactly.
There's always these.
So that was a new one right there.
I mean, I'd classify it as a new one.
Thank you very much. We're
good.
pressing the up button.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
go. I love it. You grew up in the military, both at home and then as a veteran yourself, having your own military career. How did that lifestyle, in both lifestyles, prepare you for the leadership role that you have now at TKE?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me just first say thank you for having me on today.
Oh, my gosh. Our honor, man.
Really appreciate it, and super excited to kind of have this conversation with you guys. So I grew up with parents that were both in the military, and that, helped me have an upbringing really catered around a couple of different things that were reinforced when I got into the military, right? And I would say the first being discipline, right? Discipline in many different ways, whether that be consequence management discipline for whatever behaviors I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing.
I'm familiar with those.
Yeah, exactly. And just ordinary discipline around, I used to ask my mom all the time, why do I have to clean the house every Saturday, right? And she'd be like, it's just what we got to do, right? And, I always, then leapfrog that to in the military when you think about today, not as much, but, in the past, you got to shine your boots, you got to iron your uniform, you got to make sure your uniform's squared away, all these different things. And a lot of times people think that that's just to be regimented and just to be annoying. But the reality is it's establishing discipline, right?
And creating an environment for success.
100%. And so you think about one of the games that I love the most, but also hate the most is golf, right? And the more you figure out the right swing and have the discipline to do it, the better you are. And so, for me, having that kind of foundation of discipline has always been helpful in any career that I'm in, but especially this career at TKE, right? I would say the other big thing that has helped, kind of prepare me and shape me is really learning the ability to be adaptable. When I was younger, going through different life crises, as we all do, different things, my mom would always say, hey, let's get through it. It'll be better on the other end of it, right? And, going into the military, one of the things that I've realized, and, probably use it as an example later, but I'll kind of talk through it right now, is I started my career in the health and safety field. And when COVID hit, I was the health and safety leader for TK, for our North American business unit. And everyone turned to me to say, what do we do? And I was like, I don't know what we do.
Give me a couple hours to figure it out.
Right?
Put some pen to paper.
Yeah, nobody on the globe right now knows what we do, right? We've never had this. And so, we had to be adaptable. We had to understand that we were going to get through it. We had to adapt and move. And that's, a concept that I've used, throughout my whole career, right? And then I would say lastly, is really leading from the front and investing in developing people. It's all about the people. It's all about the teams that you have. I had a commander or a CG that I was under during Bullock that said, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's why I'm here today. And that resonated with me, right? And regardless of the military, civilian career, developing your people and investing them is super important. Then it helps you get to the success that you end up having in your career, which is super important.
So what's your job like? What are some of your VP responsibilities, and can you share some of the successes that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the VP of HR. And really, I tell people all the time that, at the level that I'm at, my job first is to be a business leader and to be a function leader second, right? And so I have to think about that and the different hats that I wear within the organization, because that's super important, when you're trying to drive strategy and you're trying to also achieve execution. But I support our field services division, which is all of the folks that go out and fix elevators. There are branch locations. I support our corporate functions and our manufacturing functions as well. And I would say that I've been in this role for about 3 years, coming from the health and safety field. So it was a little bit of a pivot. But some things that I'm extremely proud of is really the ability that we've been able to do along with our CHRO over the last few years is aligning our strategy to the business priorities, right? So being in a function, the only way that you really drive value is by making sure that the strategy that you have, which you got to have a strategy, that's the first step, is aligned with what the business is trying to do. And there's some other core tenets in there that you have to do from a compliance standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. But as a function, if you're always just trying to drive compliance or what you want to do in the business without aligning it to the business priorities, your value decreases tremendously, right? And so we've been able to do that really successfully, and that's been a big win and helped us to influence some of the things that we've needed to get done. I would also say that something I'm super proud of that I didn't really have experience in doing before is, I've led a large organizational redesign to help the business be more agile in what we're doing and how we're executing against our strategy. And so, they came to me and said, hey, we want to kind of shake things up and make decision making easier, right? Get more agile. How do we do it? And, I didn't really have the domain knowledge, so I had to kind of use some, peers and all those things, and we got through it, and it was a great learning experience, and we're in a much better place today. And then I would say the last thing, which is probably the most important and, a major win for us, is we've been able to build a culture that attracts and develops and retains top talent. And we're doing that today, and we'll continue to do that. But we've top graded a lot of our talent over the last few years in conjunction with our CHRO and kind of the commitment that our CEO has around having the best teams and the best people for the business to get our strategy executed. And so that's been a big win for us overall.
Amazing stuff. I mean, you sound like you're really squared away over there, and you probably are because you're a veteran, I think, and we thank you for your service. Let's take a look back at your military career. Nate, I know you served as both a maintenance and logistics officer in the Army National Guard. You had full responsibility for $50 million worth of combat power equipment. That's a lot of responsibility. You led the Guard's response to major wildfires. You managed multi-country intelligence exercises. Looking back, what are some of your best memories or experiences that you're able to share from your military career?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, it's interesting. I was thinking about this quite a bit. And, there's all these, really great things from an experience standpoint. But I have to say what's interesting, and I know a lot of veterans will appreciate this, is in hindsight, a lot of the experiences I actually appreciate today were the experiences that I hated when I was in the military.
It's the way it always works.
Right?
In life, it works that way.
Exactly, right? Like, I think about, going on FTXs and being in the field in the Great Pacific Northwest, where the saying is, you're not training if it's not raining, right?
Yeah.
And, being in a sleeping bag with a bivy cover and a Gore-Tex liner and just sleeping on the ground and, just raining on me all night long. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, what am I doing, right? And that experience of that suck, for a lack of a better term, I've realized later down the road is I would rather spend 2 weeks doing that than, sitting in a room, having unproductive meetings and having conversations where we're not getting anything done, et cetera, et cetera. And so where I yield that from is I tell people all the time, I complain about chaos in the business, but I thrive on it, right? Like I love being in the grit of it. And when it happens, I'm dialed in, and that's what I want to do. And the military is really has a big component of that based on some of those experiences. I would also say the training aspect, right? One of the things that you mentioned around, helping to operate and lead kind of a multi-intelligence exercise. It's called Panther Strike, and the training and the experiences that I got from that were life changing, right? I mean, it was such a great opportunity in the experiences and training that you get in the military, from leadership training to field training exercises, to being in the middle of nowhere at nighttime and doing land navigation with a map, right? Like an actual map,
yeah, right? Not
like,
GPS, not on your phone.
Exactly, right? And you're like, what am I doing? Like, I'm scared. I don't know where I'm at. And, being able to push through that are things that I've learned. And I would say that, lastly, when I think about it, is the one experience that I, truly appreciate and remember fondly is kind of the camaraderie and relationship between the NCO and the officer. It's really a profound relationship of development, engagement, and teamwork. And as a second lieutenant, I came into the military after Bullock, and I went to Ordnance Bullock, so I'm a maintenance officer by trade. And I became a maintenance platoon leader for a cab unit where we had 2 battalions of heavy Abrams tanks and Bradleys, and we had 2 companies of light. And at that time, the brigade support battalion structure was you had FSCs. And so in that regard, I had 3 E7s in my platoon leading FSCs, and I had 1 E6, and then I had an E7 platoon sergeant. And what I would tell you is, I had been told very clearly, like, hey, do not come into the military thinking that because you have an officer bar that you tell everybody what to do, especially as a second lieutenant. That's not how that works, right?
Right.
And you have to learn from these NCOs, and you have to help them teach you how to execute. And so I learned a lot from those E7s. I learned a lot from my chief at the time, and the relationship was so profound because they teach you, but at the same time, they have the ability to respect the rank. And that, by virtue, allows you to respect them and their position,
I love that.
right?
That's
and it's
so good.
It's such an interesting dynamic, and when you think about it, I to this day I still can't really figure out the sauce around how the military makes these dynamics work. Right? They just do.
And it's interesting because so many NCOs these days have the same degree as the officer.
100%, right? I mean, the historical kind of nature was, if you hadn't a degree, you became an officer, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you were on the NCO side. And I can tell you, having been in the Guard, we see this a lot more, right? Because you have NCOs or even specialists or E4s for the Army that you may have a stereotype around that they're not really big time, but they may have a doctorate and may work for the government doing some crazy type job you're like, whoa, right? Like, and they may be managing a ton of people too, right? So it's a very different dynamic, and it's not as black and white as it used to be. So I would imagine that respect for a relationship is a lot different.
Well, then contrast that leading soldiers. Obviously, the location is very different. War zone and the Battery Atlanta. But contrast leading officers versus leading civilians.
Yeah. So I would say that the fundamentals of leadership don't change, right? It's the context. You're still, as a leader, you still got to build trust. You've got to set clear standards. And you've got to lead by example, regardless of what organization you're in my experience, in my opinion. But it's the context that changes. Soldiers are trained to listen to orders, to be obedient, and to dive into whatever scenario is happening. Whereas employees on the civilian side, that's not how it works, right? They bring questions, they challenge, right? And that creates a different atmosphere that is, healthy, right? That drives innovation. And so, one of the biggest things that I realized when I did some active duty stints within the Guard, and I came off of one of them and, started working more predominantly in the civilian side. One of the things that I realized was I can't yell, first off. You can't be as direct. And so there's a little bit more work that has to happen on the civilian side, a little bit more empathy, et cetera, et cetera. But what I would tell you is what good leaders realize is, regardless of if you're in the military or not, those are things that you should be doing to gain influence and motivation by the teams that you're leading anyway, right? Which is super important in that regard.
And we're talking with Nate Holliday of TK Elevator. Check out their company if you're interested at tkelevator.com. Nate, let's now get into how you and TKE are helping veterans. You're serving as the very first executive sponsor of TKE's Connect Veterans Group, bringing your leadership and your mentorship to this new internal business resource group. So, two things. What's your vision for the TKE Connect Veterans Group? And also, how have you been collaborating with the Warrior Alliance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just a little bit of context. So we recently started business resource groups within the organization, and we really did this to help drive some community aspects, right, and help drive collaboration amongst different employees. And the Connect series is kind of our umbrella for those BRGs. And so we have a Women's Connect series, and now we have a Veterans Connect series. And I have the privilege of being the executive sponsor for that group. And really, our vision is to promote growth and advancement both in careers and in personal lives, right? And the way that we are doing that is by uniting individuals passionate about supporting military members, past and present, in a vibrant and inclusive community, right? And so we're really building this community to help offer opportunities through mentorship, through allyship, and be able to support, not only our veterans, but those who support veterans or those that have veterans in their families and all of those sorts of things. So it's really a community that we're creating. And how have we been working with the Warrior Alliance? Well, the Warrior Alliance is really a strategic, partner or collaborator with us to help us understand some of the more contemporary transition resources for veterans coming out of the military today, so that we can leverage that at scale to help hire veterans and really be a predominant veteran focused and veteran open organization, right? Which we think is really important given the skill sets that, veterans bring to the table.
It's good for your company, but it's important for America, and we appreciate you doing that.
No doubt about it. And if you're interested in a career at TKE, go to tkelevator.com. It's tkelevator.com. Why is working with TK Elevator a great career path for veterans, do you believe?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say I would call it three things. So we have 5 values as an organization, and 3 of them are accountability, teamwork, and integrity. These are competencies that veterans already live by every single day, right? And so by virtue, veterans will thrive in our organization because our environment is built for them to be able to operate with purpose and the way that they are today, right? Which is super important. And then I would say, how do I help, veterans advance, right? It's really around advocating for them, providing a space, which this is Veterans Connect does that, to be able to think and talk about experiences and how to deal with different things, right? So, there are a lot of things, I would say that happen when you're transitioning out of the military, such as how do I translate the skills that I have in the military to make it so that the civilian world understands what I do, right? And that's a huge barrier for a lot of transitioning vets. And so people that come into the organization that are veterans, we're able to help them be able to do that better. We're able to help them ramp up quicker and help them be a lot more successful in what they're doing in the overall organization.
Yeah, so growing in the ranks like you have, that seems
Correct.
like it's built in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Absolutely, Scott.
And what type of education or experience are you looking for in employees? Do you have any key advice for veterans that are still kind of searching for their right career or want to come to TK Elevator?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of things. One is, it does become challenging when you're transitioning out of the military, depending on how well you use your time transitioning out, is don't just look for a job, right? Look for a mission. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to execute against? And align that career or that company with what you want to do, right? So I encourage all people that are transitioning, go to that career website, look at their values, look at their mission, make sure that they align. If they don't have it up there, doesn't mean that they don't have one, but that may be an indicator that's probably not a place for you, right? Unless you can find it somewhere else. I mentioned it before, translating your military skills into business values is super important, right? And there's all kinds of things that can help you do that right now. And the Warrior Alliance is a perfect example of that. How can we come up with the resources to help people translate is super important. I would say network relentlessly, right? In the military, you're like, who do I want to meet this person? Oh, they're a bigwig, they're a talking head, blah, 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 blah.
Or you can't because you'll break the chain of command.
There's that
right.
there's that perspective.
That's real,
too, right?
Yeah. That's real.
And so, to that point, like that's something you have to learn to break as you transition to, right? Because the civilian culture is, for the most part, more open than the military in that regard.
Right.
But figure out where you can network relentlessly and do it, right? Because networking gives you those connections, which gives you those relationships, which helps you to figure out different opportunities. And then last but not least, don't underestimate your adaptability, right? I brought it up at the beginning. People in the military, myself have growing up, right? You learn how to be adaptable to every situation. Don't underestimate that, right? Put yourself in those shoes, take the same learnings you've had, use those to transition, use those when you do transition in your new career, and be successful with it. It's really that simple, for a lack of a better term.
Adapt and overcome. I feel like I've heard that before.
Exactly. Words to live by.
That's exactly right. We did a great event with the Warrior Alliance at the TKE building, which is one of the coolest buildings in the Battery, Atlanta. When you come to the ballpark, you cannot miss it. If I'm not mistaken, the tallest building in Cobb County.
It is the tallest building in Cobb County.
So that's a building that y'all have to be so proud of because it is seen from everywhere
And state of the art.
That's right, that too. But the visual of it, because it lights up. I mean, literally, if somebody hits a home run in the stadium, they can celebrate it on the side of that building.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's I would say it's the pinnacle of our North American business, and it's a symbol really of innovation and excellence, right? The building is called our Innovation and Qualification Center. So we do all kinds of really great things in that building, in addition to hosting for event space, et cetera. But we are really proud of that building and, what we're able to do with it and how we see it as a differentiator for us continuing in the future.
Can people just reach out to y'all about renting the space in there to host an event? Is it as easy as that?
It's as easy as that. So we have an events team that you can find online, and organizations can reach out, and they'll work with those folks or those organizations accordingly. Besides
the building and the space being so cool, and we got to experience that when we did the Warrior Alliance show there, what's the benefit for the company? Is it network? Is it back to networking? Yeah. Does it boil down to that?
Yeah.
Or just office space?
Well, I think a couple of things, right? So, prior to having what we refer to as our campus today, we were decentralized, right? And so, we made a investment decision to make an investment and centralize all of our corporate resources to, drive collaboration, to drive teamwork, to be more agile in our decision making, right? So that's one huge tenet of it. The second is like I mentioned before, is we don't just have, we're not just residencing in the office building next door, But in the IQC, you know, we are doing R&D, we are innovating, right? We're doing all kinds of good stuff to help us to, you know, project into the future and accomplish the things that we want to do from a strategy standpoint. So it's definitely more than office space for us. We see it as again, a pinnacle to our business, and it's a differentiator for us.
Nate, you're an impressive fellow, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to come over and talk to us here on the Warrior Alliance Network.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for inviting me. I'm honored to be here, and you know, really pleased and proud of the work that the Warrior Alliance does for veterans every day. It's important, and you know, I hope that the outreach continues as we get more veterans to be more successful in the overall workplace.
And again, thank you for your service to our country, but moreover, thank you to you and TKE for being warrior committed.
Absolutely.